After 3 years of living on the road, from the back of my van in the US to staying in hostels abroad in Europe and Southeast Asia, I don't exactly live a traditional lifestyle. And I've gotten a lot of questions about this, how I've gotten into traveling and this life and kind of my life philosophy. But see, it wasn't always like this. I grew up playing by the rules and getting good grades in school and college and following the traditional path. And so how exactly did I end up here, sitting under a palm tree on the beach in Da Nang, Vietnam? Today, I want to talk through some of the most important decisions and reframes that I've had to make along this journey, and some of the kind of core values and life philosophy that I have. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll share with you what I think is not talked enough about on social media right now. Many people that I've talked to have kind of seen my life from the outside looking in as very maybe calculated or intentional. But like I said, it didn't start out like that. I didn't just wake up and have these kind of core values or life philosophy. I've developed the values that I hold now and the kind of life that I live through difficult decisions that I've had to make and a lot of discomfort. I graduated college with a degree in computer science and got a job as a software engineer and working out in San Francisco. And I had always had the inkling, the curiosity about entrepreneurship. I like to build things. I like to create things rather than just kind of be a cog in the wheel of a big company and get my salary. But I think the turning point happened quicker than I had expected. When I got out to San Francisco and started my job, it was exciting. It was fun for a while. It was chaotic. We were building a new product from the ground up. But I missed this kind of impact that I wanted to make and that I had experienced in college. See, I was a computer science tutor and learning assistant, teaching assistant, whatever you want to call it. I would hold office hours, help students with their homework. I would hold lectures. And I always loved that kind of one-on-one interaction with students, helping them solve problems and not just giving them the answer, but like helping them develop and come to the answer themselves. And what I realized looking back on those experiences in college was this kind of impact and fulfillment that I got, this meaning I got from helping people directly. And I was missing that working at my job. I was missing this kind of fulfillment, impact, and meaning. And I kind of had this identity crisis. I ended up posting this video on YouTube. I think it was called I Don't Feel Fulfilled. But the vision at this point in my life was very coarse. It was like, I don't like what I'm currently doing, and I want it. I think it's different, but the vision wasn't clear. I spent so many journaling sessions trying to think through, like, what am I interested in? What am I passionate about? And there were a couple key turning points, decision point moments that I remember vividly. I ended up moving from San Francisco to Denver as I wanted to do more exploring and getting out more in nature. And on my road trip, I remember thinking through, kind of zooming out on my life and thinking, like, what if I'm 80, if I'm 90, if I'm on my deathbed, like what is going to matter about my life? And I kind of boiled it down to, I think it's this combination of experiences and memories to look back on, like stories to tell, and family. And so I started to kind of orient towards this of like memories, experiences, stories, and family. And so while I was in this kind of fulfillment period of my life, searching for passion, interests, another one of these key moments was I moved to Denver and bought a 4Runner. And I kept doing these trips. I bought a 4Runner because I had been following these travel influencers and travel YouTubers, van life people, and I liked road tripping. And so I bought this 4Runner with the intention of being able to camp and sleep in the back of it for trips. And there was one trip in particular where things changed. And that was, I'd done a bunch of these trips, sleeping in the back, bought a foam pad, drove it out to the Grand Tetons, camping in the mountains of Colorado, ski trips. But there was this one trip, I drove it down to Telluride, and I packed, it was like 3 days. I was going to be there for 3 days. And as I was packing, I was realizing that
if I work Thursday, Friday, then what's the difference between Telluride and Park City? And then what if I just drove to Park City instead of back here? So then I was like, uh-oh.
if I packed for like a week worth of clothes, food, whatever, and I just did laundry, and I could work from a coffee shop, then it didn't really matter how long I went, because I could just do laundry and stay longer. And so I ended up driving out to Telluride, took the weekend, skied, and then worked like half the week in Telluride from a coffee shop. And I ended up making this pivot and decision. I decided to drive to Park City, Utah, because I realized, well, I can just work from a coffee shop. And this week went well. I could just do this from wherever. And so I drove to Park City. I worked the entire week from coffee shops and then skied the weekends, the bookend weekends. And on my drive back to Denver from Park City, I remember just thinking like, this just feels intentional. It feels good. It feels meaningful. There's like this discomfort and challenge as part of my life. And so I'm starting to get into kind of the next core, value or life philosophy, but I want to hit on this first one. Besides meaning and fulfillment is intentionality and sustainability. Finding a life that aligns between my interests, skills, and serving other people. I think that has been a core kind of driver for me. Not about what title can I get? How can I make more money? But how can I do something that I can feel proud of looking back on when I'm 80 years old, and that aligns with what I'm interested in, what I'm naturally good at, what I'm skilled at, and how I can actually use those to help other people. And so getting into this next kind of core life philosophy building block of discomfort, I realized there was a moment. I remember the coffee shop. It was a Saturday morning in Arvada, Colorado, and I was doing some journaling, and I'd been listening. I had heard this idea of pursuing discomfort like 3 or 4 times, and I finally made this realization that discomfort is a requirement for growth. And at the same time, I kept being disappointed and frustrated with myself because I would spend the evenings just on my couch scrolling on Instagram and social media, and frustrated that I wasn't growing and pushing myself. And I started to realize that comfort was starting to hold me back from growth. And specifically, my apartment was too comfortable. And that's when I decided, back with this Telluride 4Runner story, I ended up doubling down and buying a van. And I was fortunate enough to be in a position where I was just like, I'm going to take a year off, buy a van, drive it around, see what happens, and we'll go from there. And so what I had realized was discomfort and my environment was incredibly important and incredibly influential. And that comfort in my apartment was too comfortable, and it was holding me back. And that's not to say, the message here is not that you should not live in an apartment and that you should, live on the road, whatever. I think it's more that discomfort is a requirement for growth. And when I was in that environment, there was not enough discomfort. There was not enough challenge in my daily life. There was too much comfort that was the thing that was holding me back. So I want to transition here into kind of the systems and takeaways that I've started to develop, because I took this long road trip around the US for about a year. And what I realized from that experience was I started to lean more into routine and working and building towards something meaningful, something fulfilling. And I started to realize that routine was the antidote to the chaos of traveling, but that the chaos was a feature of the lifestyle, because discomfort and challenge was something that I wanted baked into my life that I could contend with. But this produced this kind of pendulum swing of routine and wanting work and wanting to build and help other people. But with this chaos, there's this kind of generalized adaptability, generalized problem solving that I've learned because of the chaos and discomfort I've had to contend with. There was a moment in Asheville, North Carolina. I had been camping at this one spot, and the next night, it was like 9 p.m. I roll in and there's this big new no overnight parking sign. And I was like, oh, okay, well, gonna have to figure something out now.
Emergency video. And then I see this big sign that looks brand new that said no overnight parking. Don't remember seeing that. That is just, part of this lifestyle. Bound to happen one day,
And it's those moments of okay, I need to figure something out here that has repeatedly created this kind of generalized adaptability. And I find that it adds this depth to life, having to contend with something, being forced to step up to the occasion and adapt to the environment. There's a couple of videos I have on this channel that you might like if it's your first time here. I made a video on the systems I've made to reduce decision fatigue of traveling, as well as gamifying my social skills goals, as I've kind of taken these learnings and had to adapt and turn them into systems that I can rely on, because it's just impossible to contend with the daily chaos without some kind of structure, without some kind of routine. And so the other thing that I wanted to talk about in the context of systems is back to this idea of this road trip from San Francisco to Denver, and talking about memories and experiences and family. I started with this hypothesis that I would want to relive and remember my memories, remember stories from my life. And with that, I started to document my life more. I started writing these weekly blog posts just to myself, capturing highlights from the week, taking more photos, and capturing more experiences and stories from my life. I've been writing these weekly blog posts for the last almost 3 years now, and I got into uploading daily just raw videos on this channel. I think I made up over 300 or 400 maybe. And I found my mindset is kind of unique in terms of traveling. I compare myself to other travel vloggers or whatever. And I don't really see travel as the end goal for me. I see travel as the vehicle, kind of tying back into this kind of intentionality and sustainability and discomfort as a requirement for growth, kind of environment. I have noticed that I haven't felt fulfillment from the act of traveling, but instead travel has kind of been the vehicle for me. And so I want to start to wrap up this video and talk about the thing that I don't see talked about enough on social media. And that is, I've noticed my perspective and frame as very unique compared to other people. People that I've talked to have said my videos and style are very authentic, kind of unique ideas. And I think that's because I take this more nuanced approach to life and ideas. You know, I compare myself to other people that seem to speak in terms of black and whites, in terms of binaries, that, you know, you have to live your life this way and this is the only way, et cetera, et cetera. And I've never felt confident with that frame. I've always taken a more kind of curiosity, question-based approach. And so it's like, you know, if I'm in a conversation with you and we've been talking for the last 30, 40, 50, an hour, I might have enough context to actually give you a recommendation. But it's like, I see these people, you know, say, you know, life should be this way, etc. And I've never felt comfortable with that. And so maybe I won't end up leading a group of, you know, 1 million people as the leader. But that's actually not, I think, what I want out of life. I think instead, this frame that I've taken, this authentic, you know, curiosity-based frame, has given me more depth in conversations, depth between people, and I think I value that more. I think I just wish that more people on social media would document not that they have the answers, but that they are in the process of looking for them. So to wrap up this video, I think if I were to describe my life philosophy in terms of kind of building blocks, it's this base of intentionality and sustainability where growth and discomfort are baked into the environment. And I've gotten that through living on the road and traveling, and using that base of intentionality, sustainability, discomfort, growth as the vehicle for me to pursue work that is meaningful, work that is fulfilling, and work in the context of helping other people, solving problems, helping other people, and layering on this kind of cap frame of this curiosity-based approach to life that, not that I have the answers, but I'm looking for them, in search for the answers, and sharing them with you. And so I think my message to you, if you were to be in a position of looking to make a change in your life, I would say the best advice, having gone through this journey myself, is that what I've learned is all of the answers will be found within yourself. Either you know the answers already or you don't. If you know the answers, it becomes a mental game of stripping away the limiting beliefs and the things holding you back from trusting yourself, trusting your gut, your intuition. And if you don't, I found the answer is in experimenting and reflecting, trying things and reflecting on what works and what doesn't. But at the end of the day, I would say trust yourself, trust your intuition, your gut, and your own lived experience over what you hear people saying online. And if it's your first time here, my name is Peter. Welcome. If you like this, you might like my other videos on, like I said, systems I use to reduce decision fatigue and gamifying my social skills goals. Hope you enjoyed. I am going to get out of the sun and go find a cafe. I think my sunburn is going to be very bad tomorrow, but we will deal. So Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, see you in the next one. I think we just have to fucking send it, you know? Hopefully my brain can kind of turn on here. I felt it slipping a little bit. It is a beautiful day. Air quality is kind of shit today. But hey, sun's out, which I do like that. It's not cloudy. It's been kind of cloudy the last couple days. So anyway, this woman over here is wearing a very small swimsuit. Trying not to be distracted here, but kind of tough, you know?